Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the business meeting of the Portland Board of Education to order. It is Tuesday, December 6th. The Portland Board of Education is meeting at City Hall and Council Chambers. May I please ask the superintendent to call the rolls?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Davis?
Here.
Ms. Morioni? Mr. Eater?
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Here.
Ms. Hatzenbuehler?
Here.
Ms. Seeliger?
Here.
Ms. Vendel? Absent. Ms. Thompson?
Here.
Ms. Hassan? Here. Ms. Donato? Here. Ms. Farah?
Here.
Mr. Siegel? Here. And Chair Tararo.
Here. And just for the record, Ms. Morioni did let me know that she is with her son who has his first basketball game tonight, and Ms. Vendel is not feeling well. She had to leave early following our executive session. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now for the report of the chair. I have to report that last night was our inaugural meeting. We welcome back our re-elected members, Ms. Lori Davis and myself, and newly elected member Roberto Rodriguez was also sworn in. And we welcomed our new student reps, Zaharla Farrar, Farhio Hassan, and Christina Donato. And we welcome back Kevin Siegel from PAVS. Ms. Morioni gave remarks for the district as the outgoing chair, and I was elected as the new chair to serve in the next year. We also said goodbye to outgoing member Pius Ali. He received some very nice remarks from everybody on the board. He was sworn in earlier in the day during the City Council inaugural meeting. There were presentations and musical performances from Portland public school students, and it was concluded with a reception. My only other announcement are upcoming meetings. December 13th at Central Office, we'll be meeting for executive session and a Freedom of Access workshop with our attorneys Drummond Woodsum. On December 20th, we also have an executive session, and that meeting, do we know, is that at Portland High? We confirmed that. We've not yet confirmed that, so that will be to be determined. And the superintendent and I will be working on getting out a schedule for going forward for the full year. And that concludes the report of the chair. We don't have a report of the students yet, since they were just sworn in last night. And I'll turn to a report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to start by talking about the Portland Education Foundation Teacher Grants Programs. The Portland Education Foundation, PEF as we know it, has completed its 8th annual Teachers Grants Program cycle, and our Portland Public Schools teachers, K through 12, received grants totaling more than $55,000. That's a 70% increase in funds disbursement over last year. This year, for the first time, the PEF Teacher Grants Program included 2 new grant programs subsumed under the PEF Teacher Grants. And one is the LL Bean Outdoor Discovery, Adventure, and Stewardship Grants Program, and the other one is the Envirologic STEM Grants Program. LL Bean funded 18 grants totaling nearly $16,000, and Envirologics funded 6 grants totaling nearly $4,000. And PF funded the remaining 49 grants. The grants to teachers are designed to support a wide range of innovative school and classroom-based efforts to enhance learning experiences. The grants, most importantly, recognize and reward the hard work of Portland's talented and dedicated teachers who work tirelessly to engage and inspire students. As a district, we are incredibly fortunate to have partners such as LLB and Virologics that believe in and invest in our teachers. And of course, this would not at all be possible without the work of the Portland Education Foundation, and I'm grateful to them for bringing all of our partners together in this effort. PF, as the school board knows, is a private nonprofit committed to raising philanthropic support to enhance educational opportunities for present and future students in Portland Public Schools. In addition to the LL Bean and Envirologics investments, funding in support of the 2016 PF Teacher Grants Program comes from the Lennox Foundation, the Simmons Foundation, Androscoggin Bank's Greater Giving, Gorham Savings, Saco and Biddeford Savings, Portland Pottery, and not least of all, individual contributions, including contributions from many of our board members and people here today. So thank you all for your generous support of our teachers and through them of our students. We have a couple of recognitions tonight. I'd first like to recognize our principal, Derek Pierce, principal of Casco Bay High School. Come on up, Derek. Derek received the 2016 Silverberg Leadership Award from EL Education. EL is formerly known as Expeditionary Learning, and many of us know it by that name. This award, which comes with a $5,000 cash prize, is given to an exemplary school leader who has raised student achievement through deep implementation of EL education practices. Derek received the award on October 29th at EL Education's National Conference in Detroit, Michigan. And as many of you know, Expeditionary Learning is a leading education nonprofit that is redefining student achievement in diverse communities across the country. And Casco Bay is a credentialed school in the EL Education National Network of Schools, and for 2015-16 was once again selected as a mentor school within the network. The Silverberg Leadership Award was created by EL Education board member Irvin Silverberg. He presented the award to Derek, recognizing him for his leadership and management skills that have resulted in the successful implementation of EL education, pedagogy, and culture. Congratulations, Derek, on this well-deserved award, and we expect that your speech is going to be at least half as fun as the one that you did at the award, when we expect to see the dance. So with that, let's come out here and give Derek his certificate.
Thank you very much. It is a great honor to be recognized by the school board. Thank you very much. And I always, when I'm here, take care to say that this is not
The little red button.
At the base. The base.
When you push it.
It's not red,
Okay,
it's
until you
red when you
push
push it.
base, that base. There we go. Now it is red and little. I do want to always thank, when we have the opportunity before the school board for Casco Bay's existence, without which I would not have the opportunity to have the job of my lifetime, which the Casco Bay job has absolutely been. I am so grateful to the school board and the city of Portland for having the wisdom and courage to take on the adventure of Casco Bay High School, and we're so grateful. And I'll tell you part of why I'm grateful. I'll just share a couple things briefly that are coming up that the school board may be interested in, the broader community. On Friday, our senior class will be marching down Congress Street as part of the March to the Post Office, celebrating the completion of at least one college application. And everybody's invited to come check that out. Right, we'll end right out in front of City Hall. Next Thursday is our freshmen will be culminating, I believe, either in this room or the state, right here in City Chamber, or the State of the Maine room. They'll be sharing their vision for the future of Portland and trying to help out the Portland as they're thinking what they want Portland to look like in the year 2016 or 2026. And some ideas for a particular development project. Our sophomores will be presenting their Africa Rising presentations. Our school board rep, Frio Hassan, is the champion of last year's round of presentations and had several $1,000s go to a charity that she wrote a grant proposal for, and we'll see what the sophomores are up to this year. And for those in the community who may have 8th grade parents, we have each of the high schools has an 8th grade open house night, and ours happens to be first, and it's Thursday night, 6:30 to 8:30 at Casco Bay High School. So thank you again to the school board for the opportunity to serve our fabulous community. Thank you for this recognition.
We would also like to recognize tonight 2 students for their achievements in the sport of boxing. During high school senior, Gabriel Tito Morales is a member of the Portland Boxing Club. And this fall, he won the USA Boxing New England Featherweight Championship with a close, hard-fought unanimous decision win. Tito, who is ranked 6th in the nation, is now at USA Boxing's National Championship being held this week in Kansas City, Missouri, which is why he isn't able to be with us here tonight. He's fighting. As an educator, I'm not sure how I feel about saying that he can't be here because he's fighting. In fact, he has already won an exciting match on the first night of competition in the youth male 123-pound division, and he has another match tonight. Earlier this year, Tito won the New England Golden Gloves Boxing Championship in the novice class. Tito is to be commended for his drive and determination, and we wish him all the best. Also, the Portland Boxing Club's Barry Wilson, a Lincoln Middle School 7th grader and Tito's brother, recently scored a unanimous decision over a very tough and determined opponent in the USA Boxing New England tournament. This past February, Barry Wilson became the New England Junior Championship in his 90-pound weight class. Barry is also a standout at Lincoln Middle School, where his teachers describe him as a team player who's a strong, positive role model for his peers. They said he is mature, extremely respectful, and well-liked by his teachers and fellow students. Congratulations, Barry, and keep up the good work, and we're going to give you a certificate as well as one for I'm sorry, did I say Tito or did I say Barry? Sorry. Barry, we're going to give you your certificate, and we're also going to give you Tito's certificate.
I just want to say thank you. I'm glad I got recognized. I'm very proud of myself. And thank you.
All right, and that concludes my recognitions and remarks. I also want to point out that we were scheduled to have a presentation by Lincoln Middle School Principal Sue Ellen Santiago, but Sue Ellen is feeling under the weather, and so she asked that we postpone her presentation, so we're going to do that at a later meeting when we didn't have one scheduled. So, and obviously I hope that Sue Ellen feels better and is ready to go.
Okay, that moves us into report of the secretary. Consideration and action to approve the meeting minutes of November 15th, 2016. Is there a motion? Ms. Hatzenbuehler, seconded by Ms. Davis. Any questions on the meeting minutes? Any public comment on the meeting minutes? Any board discussion on the meeting minutes? All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes of November 15, 2016? Unanimous with the students voting in the majority. On to report of the committees. I did want to note before we do reports, some of you have asked me about committees going forward into the next year, and I wanted to let you know that for the month of December, we're going to be keeping the committees as they currently have been. I know there are some of the committees that have meetings scheduled this month, and we'll just be continuing with those meetings as are. And we'll go through the process and start with new committee assignments beginning January 1. I'll be sending out a survey to each member so that you can take a look at the committees and indicate your preferences, your top choice, second and third, and indicate why you're interested in those committees. I felt that this was actually a process that I borrowed from the legislature. It's how they do committee assignments, and it gives me some documentation to work with in this decision, and it also gives a process for members to each give input equally. So that's where that lies. And moving into reports, Ms. Davis on curriculum.
Curriculum's been meeting on an every other month schedule, so we have not met, and our next meeting is scheduled for January 10th, although that could possibly shift as the new board calendar gets set up, so depending on how that works. But the next meeting will be in January.
Thank you. Ms. Hatzenbuehler, operations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just in terms of logistics, the next meeting is held with a joint finance and operations meeting on December the 21st. What's that? Correct? Wednesday, December 21st at 6 p.m. We don't know where, or is it at central office?
It's central office.
Okay, great. And it's going to be the beginning of a comprehensive capital improvement planning process, which is why, when we were doing buildings for our future work in the spring, we did a lot of joint committee work with finance and operations, and it was a very efficient and effective way to get through some of the more some of the detail in a expedited manner. I also want to give my appreciation to Superintendent Botana, who is approaching this in a very thoughtful way. The recent email with all of the data for the CIP, I think, is a great way to start a comprehensive plan for all of the buildings and the CIP process. So I really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And finance, that would be me. The Finance Committee met on November 30th, and we had an introduction from Alicia Gardner, who is our new Director of Finance. She had just started that week, so that was exciting. We discussed budget prep work, internal and external process and timelines. We do have a budget timeline with meetings scheduled tentatively throughout the budget cycle. We reviewed the preliminary audit report, which is something we do annually. We'll be having a joint presentation with the City Council at a later time, but we were able to get a first look at that. And it was good news. It was very thin, which is always what you want with an audit report. Nothing stood out in that regard. And as Ms. Hatzenbuehler mentioned, our next meeting is December 21st, joint with operations, regarding the CIP, 6 o'clock at central office. For public affairs, I would ask, since our chair, Mr. Ali, has left us to go to the council, I would ask Ms. Crocker to update us on that.
So actually updating on the policy committee. We do not have a meeting planned at this point, but we will certainly be gathering soon to do so and to continue the good work, of which you have some evidence in this evening's agenda.
My apologies for that. Public affairs now, Ms. Thompson.
I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Are there any other committees and or member concerns? Ms. Thompson?
Derek kind of stole my thunder a little bit. I happen to have a a child and marching to the post office. I'm very excited. Both my husband and I took the day off, so I'm really, really excited to march and watch the kids. And then I know my daughter's thrilled to finally be a senior and take part and not stand on the sidelines. So I don't know if Derek had mentioned the time or not, but it's at 1:30, and they'll start at the Portland Museum of Art and march to City Hall. So that's very exciting. And I also wanted to mention that Casco Bay High School has a musical, the High School Musical, this weekend, December 9th at 7, and on the 10th, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. at the Portland High School Ford Theater. And the tickets will be sold in advance, and they welcome all to attend, and it should be a good show. Thank you.
Any other member concerns? Moving on, oh, Ms. Hatzenbuehler.
Is there a future public affairs meeting, that like quarterly meetings, or is that, okay, all right.
Moving on to consent items. Will the superintendent read the consent items? I have it.
Apologies. Ocean Avenue received snacks for their classrooms valued at $100 from TD Bank of Portland. Thank you, TD Bank. Peaks Island received heat sheet blankets to use for experiments with the heat, wind, cold, and rain, valued at $150 from John Pearson of Cape Elizabeth. Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Peaks Island also received a violin, a flute, and a clarinet for their music programs, valued at $600 from Carol Young of Peaks Island. Thank you, Ms. Young. And finally, Portland High School received a treadmill for their wellness room to be used by staff and students with supervision, valued at $1,000 from Lori Dana of Portland. Thank you, Ms. Dana.
Thank you. Moving into old business. We have consideration and action to revise policy DID inventories. Is there a motion? Ms. Seeliger, is there a second? Ms. Hatzenbuehler? Will Ms. Thompson please speak to the motion?
I'll turn to our Assistant Superintendent, Ms. Crocker.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Happy to do so. On behalf of our former chair, Pius Ali, I'm honored to speak about the work accomplished by the Policy Committee this fall and at its latest meeting. You have before you for your consideration 3 different policies. The first one is inventories, and I'm going to actually direct you, if you would be so kind, to page 7 of our packet, where our Cracker Jack administrative assistant support to the Policy Committee, Janet Tobias, has provided us with a fantastic piece of background material on inventories, followed by truancy, which is the second policy that you'll consider, and then finally organizational chart, which is the third policy for this evening. In short, for those of you in the audience and watching at home, policy DID on inventories is an outdated policy that has not been revisited in a while. Certainly deserves to be so, because so many of the practices that mandated specific inventories and dates for inventory completion no longer exist because of improvement in our practices.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, any board discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of revising policy DID inventories, please indicate. It's unanimous with the students voting in the affirmative. Moving on to old business B, consideration and action to revise policy JHB truancy. Is there a motion? Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Hatzenbuehler. And will Superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The truancy policy is very much a policy based on the law. It's not something that we personalize or tailor very much for our specific school district, as policies throughout the state need to follow the state law, obviously. We have worked, as we always do, on all of our policies with our legal consults at Drummond Woodsum. The most significant changes in this particular version have to do with the term habitual truant and the inclusion of a new term, attendance coordinators. And so this policy will now, with your support, be in compliance with state law and allow us to participate in the work of identifying students who become truant and going through the process to bring them back to school as quickly and successfully as we possibly can.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? Is there any public comment on the motion? Any board discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of revising policy JHB truancy, please indicate. Unanimous with the students in the affirmative. And C, consideration and action to revise policy CCA and CCAE, organizational chart. Is there a motion? Ms. Davis, is there a second? Mr. Eder? And is this Ms. Thompson or Ms. Crocker?
It's me again. Thank you very much. And then I'll be done. CCA and CCAE organizational chart, just very slight change so that we refer correctly to the Portland Board of Education, as well as recent changes in organizational structure.
Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? Any board discussion on the motion? Ms. Thompson?
I would just make note on the updated org chart, we had removed the names that went with them, and the only one that we did leave was the Director of Food Services. If we could just remove the name attributed to that one, we'd be perfecto. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that, and we certainly will.
Any other board discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of revising policy CCA and CCAE organizational chart, please indicate. Unanimous with the students voting in the affirmative. Moving on to new business. Consideration and action to amend the resolution to create a parent partnership policy ad hoc committee, extending the policy submission deadline from November 30th, 2016 to December 16th, 2016. Is there a motion? Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Hatzenbuehler. Will Superintendent Botana speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. As you may recall, at the last meeting, we discussed this item. The Parent Partnership Ad hoc Committee that was created by the board has done an incredibly thorough job of thinking through what the changes should be to the policy, and they want to have an opportunity to get additional input from the community, from parents, and so they asked for the authorization to sort of put off their due date, which was November 30th to December 16th, so that they can do some of that additional due diligence. So this would just grant them the formal authority to extend to December 16th.
Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, any board discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of amending the resolution to create a parent partnership policy ad hoc committee, extending the policy submission deadline from November 30th, 2016 to December 16th, 2016, please indicate. And it's unanimous with the students in the majority. Okay. And for B, we have a first read on the comprehensive plan goals. where it is a first read, there are no comments. Moving into personnel, there are none. And board focus on education, we have dual credit, dual enrollment, advanced placement presentation.
I'd like to thank our friends from Casco Bay High School, from Portland High School, and from Deering High School who worked together, which is always a thing of great beauty, thank you, to bring us up to speed on the wonderful opportunities that are available to all of our high school students for advancing their learning to include college level and the most advanced possible ways. So thanks so much for being with us this evening, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. We do have a PowerPoint. Is it possible that we
You certainly
Pull
can.
that plug there, and then we need to move.
And then we can put it up here. or-
Can I just also add, by way of introduction to this, it just occurred to me that this is a topic that board members raised questions. It's something that the curriculum committee has been doing a significant amount of work. It's something that Kevin, I don't know where Kevin went. Kevin Siegel? There you are, sorry. Kevin Siegel has been very much an advocate for sort of bringing more visibility to how people get into dual credit classes. And so this is our effort to help do that. So thank you guys for all of your work with that.
Thank you. So we're going to be talking about earning college credits at Portland Public School. So there are actually 3 ways that students can earn credit in high school, and one is the early college courses, which means courses that are USM or SMCC taught. They're either taught on campus or else some of the instructors actually come on the high school campus. There's advanced placement courses, which are all taught at the high school, and then there are the dual enrollment courses. And so in this presentation, we'll be talking about all 3 of them.
So one of the main questions or main points, probably want me speaking in the microphone, yes. One of the main points is why would we want our students to take AP early college dual enrollment courses? So there are really 5 big reasons that we can see. One is that it will help students be better prepared for college because students who are able to take rigorous classes, such as advanced placement, dual enrolled, or college classes, develop these critical skills that they need to be successful in college. The second is that it helps them save money. Students who earn college credits while in high school can potentially save up to a semester off of their college experience, so that's really important. The third is that students will then have better personal insight into what they want to study in college, because if they're already taking some courses that are in their interest area, then that will only help them to know further down the road that that is actually the right fit for them. The fourth is that AP courses and college credits on transcripts certainly impress colleges. When students enroll in these classes, they really are demonstrating that they are motivated to take these challenging classes, and really the most challenging classes that we have to offer. And so admissions officers really see that students can handle this high-level work. And the fifth is that AP and college courses taken in high school help to create flexibility in scheduling their college classes. Because by actually starting college with some of these credits already, students then have leeway in considering other programs like study abroad, internships, and even other electives that they might take further on down the road.
All right, so let's zoom in a little more to first dual enrollment opportunities. So there are a variety, and so sometimes they're misconstrued with early studies, which is a little different. So dual enrollment, again, is just courses that are offered at the high school during the school day. It's an opportunity for students to gain college credit at the college and high school credit, and there usually are Portland Public Schools teachers working on the curriculum with the college so that students can earn both college and high school credit the course completion. It also could be courses offered at a high school during the school day taught by USM and SMCC faculty. It could be courses offered at a high school during the school day co-taught by University and Portland Public Schools faculty, or courses offered at a high school after the school day taught by high school or college faculty. So in terms of dual enrollment courses, we'll go through this very quickly. You can see them at Casco Bay. We have Chemistry of Mars that was taught by Brooke Teller and another USM teacher. And we have Calculus AB coming up, taught by Priya Natarajan and a USM professor as well.
And at Portland, we have several math courses, statistics, and calculus classes. Through Project Lead the Way, we have 2 courses where students can earn credit from RIT, and that would be the engineering classes. And then finally, the last one is, the first year we've taught this, it's Emergency Medical Responder. It's co-taught by one of our teachers as well as an SMCC professor.
And at Deering, for right now, we have Arabic class, but we're also exploring partnerships with SMCC and Thomas College so that we can hopefully expand dual enrollment opportunities next year.
At Paths, our programs have articulation agreements, and the programs listed up there as well, both types, articulation and dual enrollment opportunities.
So early college, and Derek, thankfully, just reminded us that we didn't introduce ourselves, just in case. Thank you, Derek. That's why he got that $5,000 award. Good job, Derek. I won't dance, though. So my name is Michael Hale, and I'm the Director of College, Career, and Citizenship at Casco Bay High School. We'll just introduce ourselves, and then I'll keep going.
And I'm Teresa LaPlante. I'm Guidance Director at Portland High School.
And I am Marissa Polk, Guidance Director at Deering High School.
Kevin Stolfen, Director at Paths.
That actually was a little dance. All right. So early college. So at Casco Bay High School, we do have 4 different courses that are taught on our campus by SMCC professors, and they include psychology and sociology. These are typical courses. We've done this for 4 years, I think now. World and contemporary issues, English composition, and college algebra.
And what we have listed under Portland High School are actually USM classes that our students are taking on their campus.
And same thing for Deering. These are students who are taking classes at the USM campus.
So one of the fundamental difference for Paths being a CTE center is that all of our programs have to be aligned with articulation agreements, whether they're dual enrollment or sort of garden variety articulation agreement. And the dual enrollment would be our teacher, our instructor teaching a SMCC class at Paths. They go through a process of where they look at the resume, vet the curriculum. And we deliver the SMCC curriculum as a dual enrollment or articulation agreement. One of the things that we've worked on with the state is a statewide articulation agreement. So as an example, a student in automotive who went through the program, passed the program, could take and get credits at every community college in the state. So that's York County, SMCC, EMCC that has an automotive program. So all of our programs either have dual enrollment, articulation agreement, or both, depending on the program. And then in the fall, this spring, we'll be, for next fall, we'll be bringing in Project Lead the Way, which is a biomedical focus, which will also allow students to obtain advanced college credit and work their way towards some more AP credit.
Sure, yeah. So we all have a variety of AP courses, of course, at our schools, and Casco Bay does have 3. You see up there, Environmental Science, AP US History, which we call APUSH, and English Literature and Composition.
And Deering is proud to have 15 AP courses. I won't read them all since they are up there, but happy to refer you to our website to list them all.
And Portland High has 11 AP classes. All 3 high schools in Portland, as well as all high schools in Maine, can take advantage of the AP for All program, which is listed there. And that is a program by the state of Maine to promote AP classes in some districts that might not be able to teach those classes. And so they're online classes, and there's at least 24 that students can take.
And I just wanted to mention too that we do have students who take each other, AP courses at the other two high schools through the common block. There are a few.
And for AP tests, there are some costs associated with it, as there are costs associated with some early college programs as well, and we'll talk more about that. For advanced placement courses, it's $93 for each exam without the fee waiver. However, thank you to Sharon Prey for securing some helpful funding for us to be able to offer them for only $15 for students who have a fee waiver. And of course, that's just so important, being able to ensure equal access to be able to take those advanced placement courses. So that's wonderful, wonderful work. And the other piece that we want to talk about is really advanced placement compared to early college credit. Here, at Deering, we really do, feel that advanced placement is a wonderful option for our students because the classes are internationally normed. So if you're taking AP US History at Casco or in California or in Singapore, a 3 on that test that they would take at the end of the course is the same no matter what school that you've taken it at. So it's really being able to compare, how the students are really doing. And more than 3,800 colleges and universities receive these AP exam scores, and most will provide credit or advanced placement in their courses if they score 3 or higher. And just for some history, the AP exams, the scores that are given are a scale of 1 to 5. So a 3 is right in the middle.
So general requirements for participation in early college courses. So we do have available to us, we can take courses, the students can take courses at USM, SMCC, and actually at St. Joseph's College. It's a bit of a drive, but it's possible. And so generally speaking, as junior or senior students, SMCC has allowed, we only have one, but they did allow a 10th grader when they had an interview, and they were quite impressive, I heard. And you do need a B or better average. You need to meet cut scores in AccuPlacer, SAT, or ACT. We don't need to go through those details. Costs associated generally are books and student fees. Again, the general requirements for dual enrollment, technically it's open to all grade levels and ability levels. And again, they're the usual student fees and books, which vary. The SMCC, you don't need to worry about fees, just the books. The USM, both fees and books.
Okay, so how do we tell students about these opportunities? There's a lot of different times in the year that they hear about them. One is we'll be getting our PSAT results pretty soon, and from that list, we generate AP potential letters that we send to parents. We also will talk about the early college opportunities at the 8th grade open house. We have pamphlets as well that we hand out to parents. We have assemblies that happen in March. I know that Deering does it twice a year because of the way they schedule, where students are told about these opportunities. People from USM come and they describe the early college program. We also talk about these opportunities in the early college nights for parents, and we do classroom presentations.
Yes, participation. And this is the last slide. And then we'll take your questions, of course. So we're breaking down, we're doing the numbers, doing it by the numbers. I just stole that from Derek. Thank you for that. So unique students in AP class at Castle Bay are 67, and we do have some Deering High and Portland High students through the Common Block taking our classes, AP courses. And then the exams given are 79, and that seems different because some of our students are taking 2 AP courses, okay? And then the early college courses, just this fall, we have 43 students enrolled, and then the dual enrollment is 53, and that includes the Chemistry of Mars I was talking about and the USM Calc AB. And then we do have some students that are doing the PATHS courses that are in that articulation agreement that we talked about, like automotive technology, manufacturing technology. So then we have a total number and percentage of individual students with potential to earn college credit, and that's 94 at Casco Bay and about roughly 25%.
And at Deering, the number of unique students in AP classes is 210. We also include plus 7 Casco Bay students and 2 Lincoln students who are taking AP classes with us. We expect to give probably 435 AP exams, and again, that's because students are taking more than one AP class. The number of students in early college classes is 9, and since we're only offering Arabic right now for dual enrollment, that's why you have the 3 students in the dual enrollment course, and then 3 PATH students who are in programs with articulation agreements. And for the total number and percentage of individual students with potential to earn college credit, so that means if they were already taking an AP class, we wouldn't count them again if they were also doing a dual enrollment class. We really wanted to get like a solid number on how many students specifically are accessing these opportunities. We have 221 at 24.3% of our population.
And for Portland, we have 132 students taking AP classes. We're giving 317 exams. So Sharon, thank you very much.
Yeah.
We have 5 students taking early college courses. We have 191 students in dual enrolled classes. Our total number of students earning college credit is 200, and that's 27% of our student body.
And, and so I don't know if there's time for questions, but we're happy to answer them.
Questions? John?
Thanks.
Hi, thanks. Great presentation. It's a great program, and thank you for your work. I had one question about requirements and that being that a student has to have a B average to get in. Can you tell me about the rationale behind that? Because certainly somebody could be a C student and still participate in college level courses.
We absolutely feel the same way as you. Unfortunately, it's a state funding issue, and the state says that they will only pay for students who have a B average or better.
Yeah, so it is possible for a kid to be enrolled, but then they have to pay full tuition. So just, yeah.
If they're a C student, they could be enrolled, they won't be covered.
I have a question from Mr. Siegel and then Ms. Thompson.
First off, thank you for the presentation. I have been advocating for some transparency on the curriculum committee, not only for my benefit, but my peers and parents and teachers and everyone, just so that, so thank you. I was wondering if you could speak more, or if it would be possible to speak more to certifications that are achieved in paths, because although it may not apply to, it can apply to college, obviously, but doesn't directly translate into the same way that AP classes would. So I was just wondering if that could be spoken to.
Along with articulated credit agreements, students at PATHs have opportunities to learn to achieve national certification in specific industries, in welding, in manufacturing technology. Although they don't receive credit for those that would go on their transcript, what they're receiving is a national credit certificate that they could pursue employment and get paid more. But it's also something that they can put into their portfolio, what I would refer to as their record, to show schools that a student maybe going to Maine Maritime, went through the welding program, has an AWS certification, has a NIM certification. All CTE programs need to have a pathway towards a third-party certification, whether it's a welding or a video production, new media, nursing. So that is a component that we offer our students, along with articulated college credit that they could either get through dual enrollment or articulation agreements. So that's kind of how we measure our success with our students.
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, and I'm glad. This is really exciting, and it's one of the things that I've been really excited about for being on the board, and also a parent. I've had one go through the Portland schools, who's now a registered nurse, went to Portland High School 5 years ago, and one that's a senior at Casco. And I have to say, we've come a long way in the 5 years as a parent, and the access to knowing about the courses. I have some feedback and then also some really positive things, and I want to know why we're not. So early college, for instance, I found at Casco Bay High School, for instance, where I have my latest experience with my child, is there are teachers that come there, and the student finishes their day, and they move right into the class, whether it be SMCC or USM. And so the ease of access is fantastic at Casco. And I saw that you had mentioned these are held at USM, and I'm just wondering how much more we can collaborate with the schools to get those teachers to come to ours, because I know at Casco, for instance, there were kids that already had graduated from the Portland Public Schools taking that class that they had registered through SMCC, but taking it at Casco, and so that also that interaction with the college level student. But you've made it very easy at Casco, and I'm wondering, can we do that more at Deering and Portland, potentially?
We are doing the EMR class, Emergency Medical Responder, and that's actually done during the school day, taught by an SMCC professor. So that's awfully convenient for our students. It's co-taught by a PHS teacher and SMCC. It's a start. I'm hoping that we just continue to grow that because it's a great opportunity.
And I think that for our students in particular, we had actually tried to bring an intro to business class through SMCC to Deering, actually offered during the school day. And this was when I first started, so this was about 5 years ago. And we had 2 students actually sign up for that. We do also offer Deering as a site for SMCC, so I believe that right now we're even offering like 7 or 8 classes outside of the school day, actually at Deering and hosted there. But it's just that, you know, our student population generally wants to take classes within the school day. That's what we've heard from the kids. And certainly those classes are open to them if they do want to take them.
And I guess 2 questions and then some feedback. As a parent, I didn't realize until this year, which now my child is going off to college, and I'm hoping that we will have, that the credits will be transferable. She'll have 1 full semester done, which is awesome. But what I didn't know, and I consider myself a pretty involved parent, is that each student that qualifies for this can take 1 SMCC and 1 USM at the same time. And had we known that last year, she probably would have been doing that. And so we found out about it this year, and so now first semester she's taking 1 USM, 1 SMCC, and I really wish we would have known that that was the case, because the information that you read, and I think it's more so from the college side, not the high school side, is that it sounds as though the state, it's you can take a class at a school, and it's really not clear that you really can take the SMCC and the USM should you want to as a student, and that's an awesome opportunity. And so I guess I would really ask that you promote that, because the more these students can double up, the better. And the transfer allowance, now you talked about the early responder, and that's certainly a path for some students, but in the transfer of credits, with like a Casco offering sociology, psychology, you know, a math and English, a little bit more transferable. And I'm wondering if there aren't classes that when the colleges look and say, geez, I'm going to take that because psychology is basically psychology and sociology, whereas, you know, emergency response. I'm just wondering if you find that there's the classes in which we present to our students are ones that the colleges are more likely to accept as credit versus saying, geez, glad you took it, great experience, but we can't accept it. I'm just wondering if you've explored that more, because, and again, in my opinion, it seems as though a psychology and a sociology are much more transferable. So I don't know if you have any information on.
Yeah, well, that and it goes without saying, but I'll say that's why we chose the courses we did. We definitely want to make sure we had a college algebra, especially in psychology, like you said, just courses that we know will be transferable. My information will be all, data will be all anecdotal, but students have said they've been able to use that credit to move forward, to get advanced placement or have something waived. So I don't have that data, but be fun to crunch it someday. But I don't know the answer to that, other than I know it is by and large especially those two courses.
I think what we try to do is make sure that there is an early credit opportunity in a wide variety of areas. So we do offer AP psychology. So I think each school has a different take on it. I know that the emergency medical responder was, that class was full. And it still is. It's very popular. A lot of students are looking at health occupations. So I think that was a good choice.
For the community colleges, when we develop our articulation agreements, we go through a process where their deans will sign off, and in the documentation are the 3 or 4 classes that students can get credit towards. So as an example, you could get credit towards Automotive Brakes 101. So it's spelled right out. These are the credits you will receive by going through this program, successfully passing the class. It's written right up. I sign it, the president of the college signs it, dean of the college, and we do those. Every 2 years we have to review those. So all of our programs go through that process with the community college system. A little bit different at the four-year schools. They may not be as willing to explicitly write out, these are what your student will get. But with the community college, they're very willing to. We fill it out, we sign it, everybody signs it, everybody knows where we start and what you get at the end.
I just have did you have something? I just want to indulge, I just had 2 more questions, but go ahead.
Just wanted to make a comment. I think you guys covered it in your presentation, but there's lots of reasons why it's valuable for kids to take these classes, and one of them obviously is the transferability and sort of getting credit towards college, but it's also really important to remember the value of exposure to that rigorous curriculum, the flexibility. So while a class may not transfer, it might, give you the opportunity to take a more advanced class. And so, you're able to sort of get farther in your college pursuits because of having taken that class, even if it's not transferred. It says you can go on to a higher level of math or something along those lines. So it's not just the credit itself, it's also the rigor and the flexibility that you get. I think you guys covered that in your sort of 5 reasons. I thought those were great. So
sorry, if you don't indulge me for one, and then I'll be quiet, I promise. The other thing I was wondering is AP versus early college, with regards to if a student takes an AP and they don't pass the test, whereas they've gone through the whole semester and then they just get to that test, and some kids test real well and some kids don't, and they don't get the credit for that. But then you have a student who goes through the college class and it's a continual, like the AP, but their credit isn't contingent upon a one exam. And so I'm wondering, what do you find, with that example, because it almost, and again, just anecdotally, it would seem as though the steering of early college class versus an AP, because they're taking a risk that, geez, I really may not be a great test taker, but I'm going to take that AP class, but then at the end of it, so when you said about a 3, what about that credit? So if they really bomb, the test, no credit? Or is there some credit, or how does that work?
Yeah, so they'd still get credit for the class from during high school, of course. It would just, and it really is up to each individual college to set their limits really as to what they will accept. So some colleges want a 3, some colleges want a 4. But really, the other piece is that some of the early college classes, it's also wondering if those will be accepted by the colleges that everyone wants to go to. So really, each college has their own kind of individual look at a student's transcript and curriculum in order to really place the student appropriately.
So if you got a 1, say, for instance, you took the AP
Sure.
class and you got a 1, it leaves it up to the school to decide whether or not to say, geez, Sally, you got credit for that sociology class versus Johnny, who took the sociology early college. I'm just wondering, trying to compare.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is tough to compare because, sorry.
But go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
you.
Well, I think you're right. I'm with you. I think I know where you're going. It is a tough, because basically, as Marissa said, it's pretty much most schools, by and large, it's a 3 or a 4, or no college credit. And by and large, if you take a college course, it's going to transfer. Okay, there are some exceptions, we don't know for sure, but I think there's a safe bet that, by and large, yes, it's a college course. But of course, we don't know. I don't have that data either. I know you might be asking me that. But it's a college course. So yeah, and it's a tough one. And of course, our motto, Casco Bay, we say think college now. I think that's part of why, because we really see the value of the early studies, because a little more cut and dried. And as Superintendent was saying, that you're also getting that experience. It's not just the test score. It's not just the grade, but it's that experience. So I guess there's a double A+ there. But it's scary. It's tough for a student. I mean, that exam, I administered probably 30 or 40 of them, and it's tough. And they don't all pass. But they don't all get a 3 or 4. It's different, yeah.
I just have one short thing to say about that, is that in my experience is that public universities will often accept USM credits. It's much easier, if a student goes to UVM, that credit will be accepted. But if a student applies to a private college, oftentimes they will not accept the credit from SMCC or USM. So that's, and we're finding that some students make decisions based on that. And I think you talked about that.
And the other point that I want to say is that, in talking to admissions counselors, if a student has a choice of whether to take an early college class in a specific subject or an AP class, what we've heard from admissions counselors is that they would really rather see the AP class because it is internationally normed.
Okay. And then my last question, then I'm done. I heard you mention kind of like at the end about St. Joe's, and I don't think that we promote that enough as a district. And my daughter that went to Portland, who went to St. Joe's, she did take a class at St. Joe's, her senior year, and it was an English class, and it was transferable, obviously, because she went there. But I find that they have commented over the years that they don't get very many from Portland public schools. And their early scholars program, and there is a small fee for St. Joe's, whereas SMCC and USM are much more affordable. But I'd really, again, in my opinion, just ask us that, we explore all opportunities. And the only downside to that, just so you're aware, and maybe you know this, is when my older daughter went to her senior year of college to graduate, she had taken that English her senior year in high school, and because she could graduate early because of that, the school at St. Joe's said, if you do graduate early, your federal loans are going to come due earlier. And therefore, if you spread those out and go over 2 semesters and opposed to graduating early, then your federal loans will be, so when you're borrowing about $100,000, that makes a big difference. And so she could have graduated early. But we said no, because of the loans, we had to graduate in May. So it's interesting, I never would have thought about that, and the school had the forethought to say, wait a minute, don't, this is great that you can graduate early, but be aware that 6 months after graduation, loans come due, and so that was a shock for me, that's all.
So it speaks to the financial literacy that we're always focusing on, and that's a big deal. And I'd love to talk about that more, how we can implement that more, but financial literacy is a key piece. Totally agree.
Thank you. Ms. Davis?
We've actually been talking about financial literacy in the curriculum committee as well as this. And thank you for an excellent presentation. This is an interesting area which is getting a lot of national press and push. As somebody who works with students on both sides of that divide, there are advantages and disadvantages to each of the programs. And they tend to get lumped together as college classes. Some of the things that Ms. Thompson raised and that you answered are that colleges, every institution has the ability to decide whether or not to accept those credits. And they may have articulation agreements, which are signed agreements that say, if you take it here at this institution or at this high school, we'll accept it at this one. But there are many, many schools that don't have that. There are colleges that don't accept AP credits. and what the colleges may do with particular credits and how they will feed those into your college, sort of credit portfolio can vary. They may not actually replace any requirements other than essentially general education requirements. You can have a lot of electives done, but you still may have to take requirements, even though it looks like the psychology course should meet that. Often institutions are very specific. The faculty make those decisions. And I think that's an important thing, especially for our students who tend to be low income and first generation and may not have folks at home who can really advise them well on what this will mean. And so students may think, I've got a semester done, when no, you actually won't. You still will need a significant amount of time at the institution to take the required courses. So it's it's more complicated. But you did a good job at beginning to explain some of that. I think also the preparation needed for the different types of courses and the lessons learned. A college class taken in a high school is not the same as a college class taken on a college campus. It isn't. The material and the curriculum may be the same, but the social, emotional, independence, the skills required to negotiate the college campus environment with other college students, that's a different experience. So different students are probably need advice on which is best for them, if any. One of the things that we talked a little bit about being able to get the cost reduced for the AP waivers, but what I also heard and know is that there can be significant costs for books and fees at USM can be significant. And what I didn't hear is how we help students who may not have the financial means to really level that playing field. Or is the playing field in this arena only level in the AP?
You uncovered the scary part, because we do have some limited funds. We've helped students with books in the past. There's usually a little bit easier, but it is not a level playing field. I wish it were. It is not. So that's why the SMCC courses are much easier in terms of financial literacy, or just being able to get students enrolled there, because it's not as much of a worry, but it's still books involved. So it is not a level playing field. But we've had students qualify for a scholarship here and there, but it's just one kid or another. It's really not. It's not fair. And they're actually very aware of it. They know, and we've talked a lot about it. USM is very open. Joe Pagano runs the USM Early Studies program, and he's been great about those conversations, and we're definitely moving in the right direction in talking about the equanimity issue that you're talking about.
Would I be correct in assuming that Portland is not that dissimilar from other districts where the number of low-income students who take and complete college classes or AP classes is less than non-low-income students? Typically, that's what the research will find. So it would not be a surprise to say that fewer low-income students both access AP and dual enrollment classes, and that, particularly in the AP, generally what is seen is that fewer low-income students who take AP classes also achieve the score necessary to actually turn it into college credit. I don't know if you looked at your numbers, but I didn't know if you disaggregated them by income status.
So that's a great point. And as guidance counselors, we actually don't have access to the free and reduced lunch data. That's confidential. So we actually personally wouldn't be able to disaggregate that data. But if anyone has ideas about how we could potentially do that, that'd be amazing.
Well, I mean, we have looked at the data, and it absolutely does mirror that. And it's not unlike other, other districts and other cities. You're absolutely right about that. And we do report that sort of at the aggregate level, not school by school. We report that at the aggregate level in our scorecard. So you've seen it, and you can go back and look for yourself, at what that looks like. So It's, again, it's not something that we are in any way, shape, or form proud of. And as, we're going to move into the presentation about the comprehensive plan, as you know, that's something that we've called out very specifically. We'll be using it as an example in our conversation today.
That's good to hear, because the reason I raised it is indeed, trying to, in a district such as Portland, having that be a truly level playing field is something that I think we should do, and something that could potentially be within our control. So, great. No, thank you very much.
Here, you want to use this one?
Hello. First of all, I would like to thank you guys for your work in our schools. Ms. Polk, hi. But I would like to highlight the lack of diversity in demographics in these higher courses. And I think Ms. Davis kind of touched upon different demographics that cannot access these courses, like the racial, ethnic, and multicultural gap between these honors and AP classes. And especially in schools like Deering and Portland that kind of pride in our diversity, I want to know what type of outreach is being done to kind of specifically cater to these minorities, to kind of, because there is the common misconception of not being able to take these courses, nor kind of having that standard of who is able to take it and what characteristics this person needs to have, and also being like, they're in over their heads or incapable. And I feel like that demeanor is kind of placed upon minority students and these students of different demographics. And experience-wise, I can say that is true. And it's like these type of comments and stereotypes that kind of enforces this stereotype of minority students being enabled to take these courses. But I would like to know, because I know Deering especially does do these college nights, et cetera, to have these events to reach out to the student body as a whole. But I would like to see more outreach to minority students specifically, so we know that these students, we want to cater to you, because even though we are a student body, minority students and students of color, et cetera, do need that specific outreach, because we can't all just cater all one, like a sheep herd or something. But that's kind of my point. Thank you.
So Harla, I'd just like to say thank you so much for your voice. I respect you so much as a student, and that really matters to me. And I hope that we can partner together to make some more of those presentations or outreach to diverse communities. So I hope that we can work together on that. I do know that in our AP demographics, I have run the data, and it's actually fairly similar to what our population looks like at Deering High School, which is a very diverse and multicultural, amazing school. So I'd love to be able to share that information with you as well. But I do, of course, always think that there is room to do more outreach and to really have student voices heard. So I appreciate your perspective, and let's continue working together on that.
Anything else? Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I just wanted to comment and thank Marissa, Teresa, and Michael for the presentation, and Kevin, of course. This was excellent. It's what we really wanted to have for the board. I know you guys, there's a tremendous amount of work to do this. I also think it's really valuable to be able to see the three schools working together on it, and so I really appreciate the teamwork that went into this. And I want to recognize, obviously, the three principals are here, so thank you guys for pulling this together, and Mrs. Crocker for leading the charge. So thank you.
This was a great presentation. Thank you. So next we have an update on the comprehensive plan.
So what I wanted to do today, and I'm going to start and then Malia Nally, she's right here, my right hand on the comprehensive plan, and we're going to walk through the update on the comprehensive plan. The reason we're doing that, as you know, this is a first reading of the request from the board to endorse the goals, and so that's ultimately what we're aiming for, but we wanted to take this opportunity to just talk more broadly about the comprehensive plan work that's happened to date, and obviously you have been involved in these discussions along the way, so this is for you, but it's also for the public so that we have a broader understanding of where we are. So our goals for tonight is to update you on the planning process, begin the conversation about endorsing the district goals, and then I'm going to try to go a little bit deeper around understanding the metrics and strategies as they currently stand, and also the board's role in moving the comprehensive plan work forward as we move on. So just a little bit of an update on the process. Back in July and pretty much through September, we started a process of building context. So we talked to many folks in the community, many of you and others, about the work that had happened leading up to the sort of the end of the previous comprehensive plan, and trying to get some input. We read tons of documentation and reports that were a part of that context setting for what the district had done. Really through October and November, we've been in the process of drafting and getting feedback on the drafts. And so that's involved a couple of presentations to the board, a retreat with the board, as well as presentations and tuning conversations at each of our buildings with our principals as key leaders in helping us to understand how to focus our work as a district. And so those types of activities happened throughout October and November. And that brings us to today, which is, sort of this endorsement aspect, and also rollout and communication. So what do we do once we endorse the goals, and how do we communicate that to our audience more broadly? A little bit about the engagement. So you've seen this slide before. It continues to grow because the stuff that's already done you see as in the sort of gold color, and the things that we're doing moving forward are below that. So you can see that all of the context building, all of the work that's happened at the school level prior to where we are today, as well as having the targeted meetings with key staff and experts that have helped us to shape the strategies and the metrics that we're going to be talking about a little bit further into the presentation. And so, we're now from the schools and central team perspective, we're at the fine-tuning and eventually rolling out. For the board, we're right here. That's the big red, blue star there, endorsing the goals. And, obviously, going forward, the rolling out to the community and so on. So a little bit about the goals, and this is ultimately one of the key roles of the board, and so I'm going to spend a little bit of time sort of regrounding us, and this is a conversation that we started at the retreat back in October, and this is the areas where the board is involved with respect to each of these components. So for the goals, for the metrics, and for the strategies. Around the goals, and we've talked about the fact that the board's role sort of falls into three different areas: in setting policy, in defining and maintaining accountability, and in allocating resources in the budget-making process. And so those are the key areas. So what I'm showing you here is for each of those pieces, so whether it's the goals or the metrics or the strategies, what are some examples of the board's work? And so around the goals, this is where we are today, endorsing the goals. So you've had opportunities along the way to help shape those. I believe that what we're going to be showing you in a few minutes is reflective of your feedback as well as the tremendous amount of feedback that we've received from others along the way. And so over the next couple of meetings, we'd like to get to the point where you're sort of endorsing that and that becomes policy for the board moving forward. Obviously, the accountability aspect, we've talked about very openly from the very beginning that, you know, the goals that we set are the basis for my evaluation going forward. So that's something that as a board you have a critical role, as you're the ones I work for you and you evaluate me. So that's an important part of your role. Around the metrics, reviewing them, so expecting that we will have conversations like we just started to have about, you know, our AP performance, our diverse participation in programs and things along those lines. And so coming back to us on those metrics and holding us accountable for that is an important role that you play. And as we sort of advance this process and we go into the budget, it's, your role to help us make sure that we are allocating resources consistent with those goals and with the strategies that we've outlined under those goals. So I want to just, in this, I realize that you understand it, but I think it's important to make it somewhat explicit. So the goals are permanent. Those are, not permanent as they're the only goals that we'll ever have. Obviously, we had, goals in the previous comprehensive plan that we've made some adjustments to, but those are, intended to be sort of 3 to 5 year commitments that we make. Those are not things that we're going to be changing every year. The metrics, on the other hand, they may change over time. As we do our work, we may find that, the data that we thought was going to be really helpful isn't that helpful, or that we have new assessments and with that new sets of data that are more helpful than what we had before. So those metrics, even though we believe that those are the right metrics that we are able to produce at this time, those may change over time, but they will still be, and we'll still be able to draw through lines to those goals from the data. And then the strategies, I think it's very important to understand, because you're going to be seeing some of those strategies today, that those are intended to evolve over time as we are able to accomplish our goals, or as we find that we're not accomplishing our goals, we need to, the strategies is the place where we're going to be working on a regular basis to figure out if these strategies are working, and we no longer need to do them, or they become institutionalized, or whether those strategies didn't work and they didn't help us to meet our goals, and therefore we had the wrong strategy. So those are the kinds of conversations that as a board you're also going to be involved in going forward, and it's part of your accountability responsibility as we do this work, as well as the budget making. So I just I know that you understand that, but I thought it would be helpful to spend a little bit of time on that. And so wanted to give you some examples around both on each of these areas: policy discussion, policy decisions, accountability, or budget. So, in the first one, obviously we knew what the presentation was going to be before, but that's not why we selected this. We wanted to just, give an example of a policy area. And so adjusting our current policies to remove barriers and enable us to have broader access to things like advanced placement classes or talented and gifted programs are policy decisions that that you will be involved in and will be facing as we move forward, that are critical to allowing us to meet our goals. We talked about accountability, the ongoing updates, having some form of a dashboard that we build off of our metrics that you get regular updates on and that are a part of the, our focus on educational issues during these board meetings. And then obviously we talked about the superintendent's evaluation. Around budget, some examples of things that you'll see when we walk through the strategies in a couple of minutes. Curriculum investments, those are, areas where we're going to have to allocate resources to enable us to do what we're setting out to do. Professional development, new assessments so that we can have the metrics that we need to be able to report on and measure our progress. Are building our capacity to do data analysis, things along those lines. Those are budget items that, as we move forward with our budgeting process, the questions that you'll be asking are, how do these things align to strategies? And, do you have the resources in place that are going to allow you to do the strategies that you've laid out as a, for us as a district? So this is just some examples. These are not the only times that you will interface with things associated with the comprehensive plan, but I thought it would be helpful to just spend a little bit of time on that. And so with that, I'm going to shift directly into what are the goals that I'm going to ask you to endorse. And I'm going to spend just a few minutes on each of these because, again, this is you've seen this before, but it's important to talk a little bit about how we've arrived here. So this is the achievement goal, and it reads that all PPS students will be prepared for college and career and empowered to pursue a productive post-secondary path. And so we've underlined, and this is something that you understand already, but I want to reiterate it. We've underlined those two words very deliberately. We struggled with this goal to be able to get it so that it wasn't something that spoke to some people as in you only care about college. We absolutely strongly believe that it's our mission to prepare students for college and career. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to decide to go to college, but it is our responsibility to ensure that our students are prepared for college. So the underlining of prepared is intended to signify that that's what we want to do, and it doesn't necessarily mean that that's where kids are going to go, because kids make their decisions for lots of different reasons, and what we want them to do is be prepared for it. And then the second word of that is critical, is empowered. So that means that they have the information, they are making those decisions that I talked about for multiple reasons. They're making those based on good information. And so as a district, we've done a good job of not just preparing them, but also giving them the right information to make the decision that is right for them. Our second goal is our whole student goal, and this, as you know, is something that we feel is very important, and that is that as a school system, we care greatly about achievement and preparing students for college and career, but we also need to give them the skills and habits and mindsets that they need to engage in and contribute to our diverse city and ever-changing world. And so, again, from a board's perspective, I think you were incredibly instrumental in helping us to adjust some of the language. So specifically, the diverse city piece of this is something that came out of discussions at the board retreat where you wanted to capture that as a school system, we're helping kids to become citizens of the world, but we also want them to help us to build a better city. And we also wanted to let our constituents know that we care and that our school systems are focused on so making this a better city. And I think, Derek, when he talked about the freshman project, it's a great example of the kinds of things that our kids are doing that are focused on the city itself and making it a better place. So the third goal is our equity goal, and this has changed significantly from what you saw before. And it really came, the impetus for this was our school leaders who really pushed us to say what we meant and to really sort of make a strong statement about what it is that we're trying to do. So the language is, significantly more forceful than what you've seen before, and it's saying that we will, as a district, be vigilant in supporting each and every student's particular path to achieving high standards and rooting out the systemic and ongoing inequities. And so, again, in the language of, the previous conversation that we had, we know that there are some inequities in terms of access, and those are things that we, as a district, need to be proactive. It's not enough to sort of shrug our shoulders and saying, life isn't fair. I think it means that as a system, we have to take some proactive steps to make sure that we level the playing field in very deliberate ways. And then the last goal, which we've said is the foundation goal, because none of this is doable unless we're able to do what that last goal says, and that's to attract, support, and retain talented and diverse people who use their strengths to achieve our shared goals. And so I think the support language was something that, again, grew very much out of our last conversation with the board, but has, also resonated in every other forum where we've talked about this. So it's, it's our job as a district, our accountability as an administration to be able to do a better job of attracting, supporting, and retaining our people, because we're not going to be able to do those other three things unless, we do a great job of attracting, supporting, and retaining talented and diverse people. So those are the goals as they currently stand, and that's what we're asking you to endorse at a subsequent meeting. I believe we have a slide on. I know you've seen this before, but I thought for the public, this is something that we've not used in some of our previous presentations. So this is what we call the theory of action, and it basically is sort of a if-then kind of a statement. And so the way that we've articulated what we're trying to do is, if PPS intentionally engages our community and is able to attract, support, and retain strong and diverse people who do all of those other things, who hold our kids to high expectations in academics and help them develop those social emotional skills, then we will succeed in that other important goal, which is have all of our kids graduating prepared and empowered to pursue their personal goals. So I'm going to open it up and see if you have any questions or comments about where we are right now and the goals.
So, first of all, I want to say, I'm excited, I'm thrilled, this is incredibly amazing. But it also, I also feel just sort of confident and calm about it. The process, breeds a lot of confidence in buy-in from all district stakeholders and community folks, and it makes me feel extremely proud to have you be the impetus for this strategic plan, the process of it, and the creation of it. And I feel that calmness, that confidence in moving forward with this, and wanting very much for you to help us in your articulation of how we can make this a success for the district as well. So, letting us know exactly what we need to do to bring this to its full fruition would be very helpful to me. And then secondly, I just want to thank you for your hard work, also you too, because this is good stuff here.
Thank you. I'm glad you feel calm. I wish I could say that I do.
Ms. Hassan.
Can I just stand up?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I definitely support the plan, and I 100% do believe in the plan. I just want to talk on behalf of the student body when I say that some of the plans are already, well, at least at Casco, there's a lot of discussion surrounding students taking more AP courses, more college courses, especially low-income students who are ELL. Speaking on my part, like, I knew that there were classes and I just and so there's discussion surrounding that, and there want to get involved in it. So, in regards to your plan, students that you need us to, have that discussion.
And I think that we trust you and that, obviously you represent the student bodies at, all of our schools. And that's not to say that you're the only ones, but we definitely want your feedback and your comments on the plan. And that's a big part of your role as being board members, is to, help us, with the plan, but also with achieving the plan, which is going to be the work for years to come. So.
Ms. Thompson?
I just want to thank you and Ms. Crocker and Malia and staff. I think it was a good decision that we made to hold off for the hiring of yourself. And it feels really, to Ms. Hatzenbuehler's point of the coming together. I think when we started the comprehensive plan, and we had Boston come and do a presentation, and they talked about how the community lived and breathed it, I feel as though finally that comprehensive plan framework is now getting to a point where people are going to live and breathe this. And I think you've done an outstanding job, and I really appreciate in 6 months' time the work that's gone into this and the feedback that you've had people provide, and it's truly an outstanding piece of work, and I really appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Other comments? Ms. Davis?
I just wanted to say I'm so glad to see the changes in the equity one, because I think that, and I'm glad that that was coming from staff and coming from a lot of folks, because this one is going to make us work and hold our feet to the fire and really change some things, as opposed to just kind of a general, isn't it nice to have equity? This really puts it out there in, I think, what was behind it, as you said, but really puts it right out there for everyone to see, and I'm thrilled.
Mr. Eder?
I really appreciate you being committed to making it data-driven, so these aren't just nice, empty words, and I really appreciate the work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I would just say that I really appreciate it as well, and I echo Ms. Davis's comments about the changes to equity. I think these goals, and I think I said it at the retreat, but I feel like they represent really what education looks like today. So when they were first presented to us, I felt like we got it, so I'm happy with these. Thank you.
Thank you. And clearly, I appreciate all of the kind words about this process. I think that, we've done a good job with the process to date. I think that there's a big piece of this, for it to really sort of be what this community lives and, people understand it. There's a significant amount of work that we're going to be talking about in terms of the rollout of the plan and how do we build communication around what it is that we're trying to accomplish, because obviously doing these things is going to be hard work, and so we're going to have the board working together and the community understanding what it is that we're trying to accomplish in order to be able to do all of this work. And so I'm again, I wish I were calm. I'm not, but I'm generally not that calm. So it's, I believe that this is a heavy lift for us, and I think that, it's going to take all of us working together to be able to achieve what we've set out to achieve. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Malia. Right?
Great, yes.
I think.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. So I'll just go quickly through
helping us with this third objective of building your understanding on the metrics and strategies. So this is going to be high level, but it's just so you have a little bit of that content background for future conversations. So quickly in terms of achievement, I'm not going to speak to each of the metrics, but here in the achievement goal, you see that we have a set of milestones spanning from pre-K to graduation. And so we expect that individual schools and teachers will set additional goals, be looking at other data points, but these are the high-level points that we'll pull up and look at as indicators of whether or not we're on track toward this big goal of having all of our students prepared and empowered to pursue college or whatever path that they choose. In terms of the strategies, there are a few. So the first is really around curriculum. And this is connected to the fact that we know research talks about how curriculum and content have a significant impact on what students learn. So the tasks you put in front of students determine what they're actually going to learn. And so this is on ensuring that all of the curricular material and content being used aligns to the expectations we have for what students should learn. It doesn't necessarily dictate a particular curriculum per se, but it's really about that outcome of really high quality curriculum and content in every classroom in front of every student. The second strategy is around district-wide intervention. So the last plan actually had a strategy connected to RTI as well. This is just acknowledging that underlying assumption that each student needs different supports and they need different amount of time to learn and master on-grade skills and knowledge. And so it's looking at what are the right kind of best practices across the district that are working and where are there opportunities to have more of a cohesive district-wide strategy so that it promotes better collaboration among educators, is cognizant of the fact that some students move across the district from school to school, and is really kind of thinking about the efficiency of the resources and ways to kind of maximize economies of scale, if you will. And then the third is around improving access to and use of student learning data to drive instruction. So I think about this as the tools and then as the support and professional development around using those tools. So the first piece is this high quality formative data. So this is really great data that reflects what teachers are teaching, the protocols and analyses that surround that make it really efficient and easy for them to understand and make meaning of. But then it's also looking at and considering the importance of the professional development, the collaboration structures, and supports that need to be in place to help teachers with great high-quality analysis and action planning so that the data really improves student learning. So those are the three biggies. There's lots beneath that, but those are the kind of three themes, curriculum, intervention strategy, and data that are aligned up to this achievement goal.
Can I do a quick?
Absolutely, yeah.
Two things. First, I just realized that I did not introduce Malia. So I know that most of you know her, but I don't know that everybody does. So I think I apologize for that. I'm always the worst host, and I never introduce people. I'm just terrible about that, so I apologize. I know that my wife, if she were watching this, she'd be, there he goes again. Just hello, I'm here. So I really apologize. Malia Nally is a consultant that's been working with us on this process from the very beginning. Malia is a former teacher, former chief operating officer for ANET, which is a national consulting organization that does a lot of this work. She's also a parent of Portland Public Schools children and lives in the community, and she's done an amazing amount of work in helping to shape this, and she had no idea when she signed on that this was going to absorb her every hour for the past 5 months. So I'm extremely grateful to Malia for the work that she's done, and she deserves a strong introduction, and I realized that I didn't do that. The other thing that I didn't do is to underscore that these strategies are new. You've not seen this before, and these resulted from when we last met, we were about to begin this process where we brought together school folks and some experts from outside, and we did these we call them strategy workshops, where we spent a considerable amount of time going through the metrics and following a very deliberate process to sort of refine those metrics and then begin to shape these strategies. So those strategies are the result of those sessions that have since then been tuned with principals and others. So I just wanted to do a little bit of the introductory work that I was supposed to do. Sorry.
Thank you. I was hoping you'd forget about it altogether. But that is good context, actually, about where the strategies actually came from. The working groups, just to name, they were excellent. It was a true cross-section of educators, community experts. It was really cool to have all those people together, really debating, and sometimes rigorously, what we were thinking about. So then, in terms of, I'll do all these real quick, and then if you have any questions or comments, but again, we're just trying to build some context. On the whole student goal, the metrics are still being fleshed out in terms of the specific tools that we're going to use, which will then shape the language into a more clear outcome. But we're landing on using a student survey and a family or guardian survey as the way we're going to measure progress here. I think we had debated thinking about things like measuring social emotional learning outcomes, but the research we've looked into so far suggests not doing that. It can lead to a lot of funky actions potentially, and so we want to learn more from our own experience in doing this work and from what the research says. I think there's a growing body of that that's kind of continuing to build over time. So we're going to ask students and family and guardians about their experience and perception of schools and the learning environment at schools. In terms of the strategies, so the first one is around adopting shared language around social emotional learning outcomes and ensuring each school has a strategy for teaching and developing students in pursuit of those outcomes. There are many different frameworks that spell out social emotional learning competencies. I think just to give you some examples of what we mean by that: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, decision-making skills. And so in different schools already, some schools have programs that they're already using that are aligned to this kind of thing. So what we decided here is that we want to have some shared language and framework for how we think about this as a district, especially so that our students, as they progress throughout their K through 12 kind of career experience within Portland, have teachers who have those kind of touchstones and that common vocabulary so that it can be reinforced and underscored over time. But we don't feel ready to say that everybody has to use the exact same curriculum per se around this. I think we're going to learn a lot about who's doing what's working, and I think we want to look at that in a really rigorous way with some data to figure out what kind of programs it will lead to. So that's the first one. The second is ensuring each PPS student has a meaningful connection to a caring adult. So this is really about making sure no student slips through the cracks. It's the idea that there's an adult looking out for each student. It could be a teacher, but it could be somebody else. It might be an administrator or a coach. And it's really linked to this next strategy, which is building a personalized success plan for each Portland Public School student that follows them through their kind of kindergarten through graduation. For me, as a special educator, people used to always say, special education that's just good teaching, right? It's all about individualization and differentiation, so why don't we do that for all kids? And this is kind of getting at that same idea and some of those principles that are reflected in how you think about special education. I think the thing I would say here that Superintendent Botana and I were talking about is that we know this one can be pretty complex from an implementation perspective. And so as we get into operationalizing this, I imagine that this particular strategy is going to evolve quite a bit. But that's the idea there. Anything you want to say about these? In terms of equity, we're going to look from a data perspective at increasing academic outcomes for all and then reducing gaps between student subgroups. And so the district dashboard currently looks at this, so we'll realign that to the achievement milestones we see, and then we'll look at the data in terms of the student perceptions and family perceptions of the schools, potentially by subgroups as well, and really looking to ensure that there are no significant gaps between different groups of students, and then also improving proportional participation and success across programs. So AP came up several times tonight, and I think we're going to look at multiple programs. So gifted and talented. Also special ed, is there proportional representation in special ed? What you would expect, things like that. So those are the metrics. And then in terms of strategies, the first is around family partnership, strengthening family partnerships by improving communication and building authentic opportunities for participation in the learning process. So we're trying to really think about how to most authentically communicate with and engage families in schooling. I think this is also making sure there's shared ownership for that. I think one of the things that came up in some working groups a few times, especially from folks on the ELL team, is that it can't just be about one person's role or one department's role to be thinking about this, and sometimes that can happen. So really, how do we create shared ownership and strategy around the way we engage and communicate with families, and work with other partners like Portland Empowered and others to do that really thoughtfully. The next is around extended and expanded learning opportunities. So the extended learning opportunities links back to that achievement strategy too, where we talked about how some students need more time to learn the content or to catch up. But this is also speaking to not just the extended learning time, but expanded learning opportunities. And so considering the importance of opportunities outside the core curriculum, for students to really kind of tap into their different talents and strengths and motivations. And so it's making sure there's a strategy in place so that these other types of experiences are a part of the learning process for all students in Portland. The next is around reviewing current policies and practices that create unintended barriers to access and to work on dismantling them. So I think we've talked about that a few times tonight. I know in the working groups, the AP example came up, one version of that where folks talking about students who are trying to get into some math courses, that there's certain prerequisites around assessment that might rely too heavily on language acquisition or reading, and that there's people that have the math content and aren't accessing the rigor that they could really handle because of these other kind of policies in place around how you get into the class. So it's really starting to look at where are those things happening inadvertently many times, and then how do we systematically dismantle those and shift those practices. And then finally, building a transparent and collaborative equity audit system to identify and act on best practices and areas for growth. So this was really born out of a community and schools partnership vision with this group of people that came together, a really passionate crew to think about this particular goal. And I think the idea is that there would be some sort of systematic way for small teams of people that are educators and also community partners to really go into the schools and help them reflect on their culture, their practices, the adult skills and mindsets around cultural responsiveness and things like that, and to give them feedback and for action planning to take place around that. So definitely something that would need to get built out a lot, but this idea that we'd really look into how to create a system around that for the schools. Anything you want to add to equity? Great. And then finally, in terms of people, again, lots of different things are going to be tracked, and certainly different goals that the HR team will set are sort of expand beyond this. But the pieces we're pulling up to look at in relationship to this goal and for the plan are one around employee engagement. And so this is like a workplace climate type metric, and there's lots of really awesome tools that are very research based out there. So we're in the process, Barb and I are meeting later this week, in fact, just to research what's there, what's been used so far here, and to make a choice. And then the second is around increasing the staff who identify as people of color, so increasing staff diversity. In terms of the strategies, I'll just put them all up. So the first is around PD, professional development, and so this is building and implementing a comprehensive professional development strategy that prioritizes opportunities for growth that are aligned to those district-wide strategies. So when we first had these strategies, each of the goals had a professional development strategy within it, because in all cases, it's important to think from an implementation perspective. So it's not just rolling out these structures, routines, and tools, but how do we actually support and provide the professional development necessary for educators around each of the strategies. So we've kind of bucketed them all here in the people goal. And you see in the parentheses some of the key priorities that should sound familiar, aligned to those previous strategies. The second is around people, data, systems, and routines. And so this is just capturing the data to better understand hiring, staff engagement, staff development, retention trends. And then once there's better systems in place to really capture all of that data, it's about collecting and analyzing and then having routines and structures in place to reflect on and act on that data. The third is building and implementing a diversity recruitment strategy. So we know that in order to have a diverse team in Portland, it's about recruitment, hiring, staff engagement, development, and retention. However, currently the team is not highly diverse across all roles, and so the strategy really focuses on innovative ways to recruit more diverse people into the system, and also thinks about ways to cultivate diverse people who are in the organization now, which leads to this last strategy around career pathways. And so this is really having an intentional strategy to help people think about how their careers can evolve in PPS over time, and is really pushing the organization to think about the importance of retention. And here, something that came out quite a bit in the working groups was the importance of, within this, having a particular focus on leadership retention at the central office as well as at the schools. Anything you want to add? Oh, yes, sorry. And then articulating the core values and unique PPS identity to attract new talent and strengthen organizational culture. So this is around having, in terms of improving employee engagement, a lot of it's around, do people have development opportunities? Do they see their career evolving? All this stuff, but also thinking very explicitly around the culture within the school and within the district. And so this is about putting some real beliefs down and saying, who are we about as a district, and how does that connect to who you're about within your department or your school, is kind of a cornerstone to building organizational culture, and also is connected to getting people excited to come and be a part of the team here at Portland Public Schools.
One thing I would have liked to have seen in this section explicitly is something around developing homegrown talent.
Yeah, I think that's the strategy 5, building career pathways. So that's, yeah. 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 Yeah, the language is a little jargony, but it's exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, we can look at making a tweak. Anything else? Yeah, any other questions? Okay. All right. Do you want to talk next steps? They're very brief.
So, just very briefly to reinforce what our next steps are, we are intend on having a public hearing at the December 20th meeting, so that would be an opportunity for people from the public that have any comments, positive or concerns about the goals as they are currently articulated, to have an opportunity to express that. And then we would have the second reading at the January 3rd meeting, and hopefully at that time endorsement of the goals by the board. And then obviously on an ongoing basis, work we're already currently engaged in, sort of developing a communications plan for rolling out all of the work that comes with a comprehensive plan. So those are the next steps. That's always good advice. I think, the strategies are probably, the metrics are definitely jargony. The strategies are pretty jargony. And so I think to a large extent, those are intended for people in the business. I think it's really important that the goals be clear and sort of understandable at all levels. And yeah, I do think that at the strategy level, when we talk about what we're doing, we should be able to simplify it down to, this is about, getting people to work in the Portland Public Schools and want to be a part of the Portland Public Schools. I think, there's a balance there between having it be explicit, so that we know exactly what we're doing, and that's somewhat jargony, and then to be able to sort of to boil it down to its essence in a way that's understandable without having to get. Fair.
And that may be something that can be addressed also in the communications plan, and some examples and some ways that kind of make it so you can kind of, what does that mean? And so like the example, even when you use the AP and we'd had the other, it's like, oh, okay, now I see beginning to see how that would actually, what it would ask us to do as a board, or how it would change, or what the expectation would be for community. But
And
yeah.
without sort of having a formal plan to sort of discuss in detail, I mean, right now we're in the process of talking to other districts that have comprehensive plans, that we looked at some of their materials and we thought that they did a nice job of sort of communicating what this was in a way that was non-jargony and that was accessible to various communities. And so that's going to determine what I would envision going out to people, what I would envision being in brochures, what I would envision being in presentations to the community would probably be very light on some of the detail around metrics and strategies, and more examples of what does this look like in practice. What is our current state? What is, our desired state, in ways that is much more relatable than this. But I mean, I think that's a fair criticism, and we, because this is a public presentation and people are, hearing this at home sometimes for the first time, and, to the extent that we're, not understandable, then that's our bad, so.
It may also be that we'll need to use it as an educational tool and some definitions when we can't avoid the jargon. And, like when we were talking earlier tonight about articulation agreements, and I was so glad I was sitting there waiting for somebody to say what that was, because it was just being used as though everyone knew what it
garden
was.
variety articulation agreements.
Yeah, like, okay.
There's non-garden garden variety, so yeah.
So it may be that we'll, also as part of the communications or other ways is defining some of these jargon terms that we can't work around. But you're right, John, making it so that people can wrap their heads around it and kind of get on board will be an important part. So, yeah, great work. Thank you.
From here, I'm going to introduce or actually, no, we have to, before we go to the workshop.
Yeah. Yes, so we do, the superintendent was alluding to, we do have a workshop immediately following the meeting, which is on the 2017-18 school calendar. But where it is before the hour of 10 o'clock, I would open it up to public comment on any items not on this evening's agenda. Seeing no public comment, is there a motion to adjourn the business meeting? Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Hatzenbuehler. All those in favor? It's unanimous. We are adjourned.